Hi, my name is Scott Keever, and I am a composer and guitarist living here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. For the past 20 years, I've been dealing with a chronic condition called focal dystonia. The definition of focal dystonia is a neurophysiological disorder, which for me affects the ring and pinky fingers of both hands, causing them to tremor, curl inwards, and sometimes seize up. It can also lead to symptoms that sometimes feel like fibromyalgia, with burning sensations through my hands, wrists, elbows, and shoulders. It's not fun, folks. I've had this condition for over 20 years. My primary instrument for 15 years, until 2002, was bass guitar. In 1998, I started getting tremors in my hands, but doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. The condition would appear, then disappear for a long while, and then reappear again. Finally, in 2002, it got bad. Really bad. And it stayed bad. I finally went to a neurologist who finally diagnosed me, and there was no cure. I did go to hand therapy at Sister Kenny in Minneapolis, and it certainly helped, but I essentially had to stop playing music for 2 years. 2 long years. It was devastating. I got hugely depressed and didn't think I'd ever play music ever again. By 2004, I was a little bit better and was able to play music for a limited amount of time. However, I figured out through trial and error that I couldn't play bass anymore. It always triggered my dystonia. So I had to stop playing it. Fortunately, I played multiple instruments so that I was able to keep playing guitar, keyboards, etc. But I was no longer the confident performer that I used to be. In 2006, after my first wife Rachel passed away, I made the split decision to finish my undergrad in music at the University of Minnesota, with guitar as my primary instrument. I took classical guitar lessons for 9 months to prepare for the audition. My hands were stable enough that I felt comfortable doing so, which would have been fine, but I still had dystonia attacks. I'd be able to practice for a couple months, and then I would have to stop for 2 weeks, sometimes 3. I was somehow able to squeak by and pass the audition and do moderately well as a guitar student. I finally graduated in 2009 and continued to play guitar. I was also working as a keyboardist, as well as playing other instruments in various projects. The same thing would happen though. I'd be fine for a few months, but then I'd have a dystonic attack and have to take a week or 2 off. Since 2002, I've tried almost everything to combat the condition. Yoga, acupuncture, chiropractors, massage, even the Alexander technique. All of which helped to alleviate the symptoms temporarily, but it would always come back. So I could never really feel like a reliable performer or reach any kind of potential that I might have. In 2016, while I was with the band The Sweet Colleens, Jeremy Greenhouse's wife, Rachel Greenhouse, heard about my hand condition and told me about a new doctor in the area who was starting out at a chiropractic facility and that he was interested in working with musicians. She had told him about me, and he was very interested in patients with focal dystonia. I have to say, I was skeptical and pessimistic, but I figured, why not? So I went to see him. You hear the phrase, "this person changed my life," and it's become a cliche. But in my case, it's true. Working with Dr. Reis, who is now through the Northwestern Health Sciences University, working with him changed my life. He had done a ton of research on focal dystonia and found that working with eye movement could be a way to contain the symptoms. In my case, I had to start retraining myself to begin focusing out of my left eye, non-dominant, instead of my right eye. Did you know that you have a dominant eye? Yeah, me neither. In any case, after a bunch of testing, it was found that my right eye was overcompensating and that I needed to retrain both eyes, which in essence meant I needed to retrain my neurological system. It meant a regimen of eye and coordination exercises, which I continued to do for almost a year. I also dropped gluten from my diet and made a number of other health changes. By the end of that year, the symptoms had subsided to a large extent. By 2018, they had subsided to the extent that I was able to focus primarily on guitar, and then I was able to produce a solo album like I'd wanted to for a long time. And since the release of the album, I've been going about setting up a new career as a solo guitarist. And then COVID hit. While my guitar solo gigs got canceled, I've been able to stay afloat since most of my income has been through music teaching, and the switch to online teaching has been going better than expected. I know that I've been extremely fortunate and lucky to have been okay up until now, at least up until July of this year. For 2 months, I had to face this thing down again. I had to refocus, pun intended, my eyes and began doing coordination exercises more often. It's now meant that I have to take longer walks, which I'm doing, and spend less time on the computer, which I'm trying to do. And it just means that I have to manage myself through the stresses of COVID. And it humbles me, and it's frustrated me, and it's made me angry. However, I've learned to live with this condition, and I've found that the advantage of focal dystonia is that it has challenged my own perception of myself. Before dystonia, I used to think of myself as primarily a bass guitar player, and that was it. When that identity was taken away, I realized that there was more to my talent than just that. Because of dystonia, I became a guitarist. Because of dystonia, I started realizing my potential as a composer. And because of dystonia, I've had to make the best of my abilities. So while I'm distressed and perturbed by its constant companionship, I do see the upside to it. Because of this latest dystonic episode, I've decided to do a video version of my story in hopes of helping others with this condition and any other chronic condition that they might have. While most of my friends have known about my dystonia for years, I haven't really ever spoken about it publicly as an artist with a chronic condition. But I figured in this time of COVID, it's time to stop hiding and talk about it. I've been inspired by other folks who've talked about their issues online, physically and otherwise, and I'd like to be a conduit for helping folks who might have similar issues. I want to thank you for watching this video. I put down some links that talk about focal dystonia, and I want to thank you for being a part of my journey.